morning, everyone. Good to see a lot of familiar faces who've been coming to the different tables we've been hosting for the past 14 months, and I also see a lot of new faces as well. So welcome to George Mason University. Our last roundtable in August talked about training and education, and so that's why I was asked to come up here just to give you a flavor of one of the presentations that was given. And I'm going to talk about the Peace Operations Policy Program, which is our program here. We actually started in 1994. George Mason has 4 campuses now. Back then we had a lot less. We were out on the Fairfax campus. Dave Davis was one of our founding members. We were established to look at the mix of military, humanitarian, and diplomatic functions in these types of operations. Back then we called them peacekeeping or peace operations. The Peace Operations Policy Program has 3 pillars. We look at education, research, and practice. And in reality, a lot of these pillars, the functions, they mix. So we have students that are engaged in research in our programs, faculty teaches, but also does practice. So there's a lot of mixing of that. We actually started off as a research unit on the Fairfax campus. A lot of the items that we were looking at that time had to do with command and control, and actually whether or not the United States really should be doing peacekeeping operations. A lot of that command and control issue seems to have been worked out a little bit. Now we're looking more so at the relationships between civil and military. So things have progressed. Just a list of some of the conferences that we have. You also have a package inside your folder that does describe us in more detail. Back in the early 1990s, what a lot of people looking at peacekeeping operations were doing were taking functions and actors and looking at them together. So from a military officer, oh, that means you can do security. It means that civilians can't necessarily do security. We thought that that was a little bit flawed in an approach. So what we do is we separate it. To give an example, there's a non-governmental organization called Peace Brigades. Those people, they're not armed, they're an NGO. What they do is a concept called accompaniment. So they'll go to, let's say, Central America, towns where there might be a political campaign going on and somebody's in the opposition wanting to get into government. They might just accompany those people and show the presence of the international community. So that is providing security, although they're not carrying arms. So for us, we decided to decouple the actors from the functions might be a more appropriate way of representing all the different types of activities that take place in these operations. So what we wanted to do was to set up some conferences to get those 3 major players to come in and talk to us about what were the things that you do in these peacekeeping operations. From that, we were able to develop a more holistic conceptual framework of what peacekeeping operations were all about. We divided it into 4 different pillars: peacemaking, the negotiating functions, peace building, you're trying to bring about the restoration of civil order and also social justice in that area, peacekeeping, public security, and also what you guys do as well, border control as well, and peace support. No one can get to an operation if they can't travel there, so your functions like transportation, communications, logistics, all of that is generally peace support. If you look today at the Coordinator for Civilization and Reconstruction's Essential Task Matrix, you see a lot of these elements have filtered up over time into that as well. So it's not, in an academic sense, something that's just done and hung up in somebody's library. It's actually used. Practice is also very important to us. When we admit students into our programs, if they have no professional experience somehow related to peace operations, we really don't allow them to come into the program because they really don't bring anything to the table. We're not trying to be mean about that, but we are not a program that is looking at bringing 21-year-olds without experience and giving them a master's degree. That being said, the professors as well should not be people that have never had experience. And you can see our bios are inside your folder. You can see the types of backgrounds that we have. Most of the people do have military background. Practice also means that we go out and do things. And I guess because Dave came here with a modeling background, we ended up over time doing a lot of modeling and simulation at home. A lot of it has been done for NATO. And so those are some of the models we've done. We've also done a lot of research in NATO, dealing with troops to task, listings, and tasks. What kind of tasks are needed in order to go and accomplish missions, that sort of thing. Assessments, we've done DD&R assessments, facilitated problem solving in West Africa, and also some types of archives, primarily in the Balkans. Education was the subject of our August roundtable. We do offer a Master of Science in Peace Operations. It's a 39-credit-hour degree. We are the only master's program throughout the entire United States that offers this discipline. We currently have 70 students. This has been an explosion that has taken place over time. I would say in 2003, we only had 18 students. So there is more awareness. It's definitely not our marketing skills, I know that. It's more word of mouth, people coming to our program. To give you a little bit of a breakdown of the types of people that we have, there is definitely a large component for our military. Our military folks, however, generally do not come into the program before going out and deploying. It's only afterwards. It's like they see things and they're not either happy with it or want to know more about relations with other actors and stuff, and so they want to come into our program in order to learn that. The only exception to that would be, I guess, like Lieutenant Brazelton. He did ROTC undergraduate, and they do have an opportunity to do grad school before going out. And so we're getting some more people doing that as well. So we'll kind of look at that. We have 4 core classes: theory of peace operations, practice of peace operations, analysis for peace operations, and experiential applications. Okay. Our program started as a master's degree in 1997. Those first 2 classes were actually started 2 years earlier in combination with some of the research that we were doing. Although they have changed over time, or not stagnant, just that there are tons of electives. You get to do 15 credits worth of electives. And here our different students like to go and match up their interests with what their electives are. Also, because we're in the Washington area, people are allowed to take advantage of the other universities in this area and actually pay George Mason rates. Especially with regional studies, there's a wonderful Africa and conflict resolution course over at American University. So we find that our students generally do that sort of stuff with the regional areas in one of the other schools. That's a master's program. We also put on short courses, and we've done this before for, let's say, Afghanistan in 2002 and 2003. Senior leaders that are going to deploy out into missions, we looked at that as well at the UN level in 2001, 2002. And we also have developed a certificate in peace and stability operations, although we have not run any of those classes yet. I wanted to put up what we see as our successes. The students who come to POP to get this master's degree really do believe that they're receiving a quality but practical education. There are tons of master's programs out there. Many are theoretical. Ours is very practice-oriented. We want to know what's going on in the field. Everybody brings their viewpoints, and we discuss that in the classroom. And it's framed around different frameworks that are available to us for this field. We also see George Mason University and our classrooms, too, as a neutral space for people to come in and discuss what could be some sensitive topics. People are also allowed to come into a uniform in class. We're very open about that. So we do see ourselves as perhaps an area to bridge different relations and to break down stovepipes. We also do that through our colloquium series, and a lot of you, if you are in this area, have probably been receiving